Hi everyone, I'm Mack, and welcome to another episode of The Vulnerable Hero, where I define vulnerability as the courage to experience love in its purest form. The courageousness to experience love in its purest form. I say it often, I'll repeat it on every episode until it truly sinks in for you. Are you being courageous to be vulnerable, face the shame, the fear, the guilt, the obligations, and let your walls down and simply experience life to its fullest, which is love at its most intentional ways of being, which is to give to you all that is the best for you? Are you willing to be that? And then the hero part. The hero part of the name of this podcast. We need heroes. Don't get me wrong. It's not just about being vulnerable. It's about being heroic. But like I said on another podcast previous to this, I think my last episode, are you looked at as someone that could potentially hurt others, or are you looked at as someone who is the safest person in the room? The protector. The person with the ability to inflict harm, yet chooses to protect others instead of hurt others. One of my closest friends is a medically retired 10-year Navy SEAL, an officer in the SEALs. And he told me when I first met him, he said there's 3 types of people. There are wolves, there are sheep, and the wolf's one intention is to hurt the sheep. And the sheep huddle together and try to protect themselves by the huddle. But there's a third category, and those are sheepdogs, with the same ability as the wolf to inflict harm upon the sheep, but instead of hurting the sheep, chooses to protect the sheep against the wolves. That's heroic. Having the ability to inflict harm, but not inputting a thought of harm into anyone that you are around, except those that want to inflict harm. You're a safe person. You're a hero. But it starts with vulnerability. You see, we don't have a lack of narrative of heroism in our culture, in our society. I happen to love the Marvel movies, the Marvel comic movies. I love them. I love the storylines. I love the cinematography. I love it all. However, what those do repeatedly put into our narrative in our society is that we need someone with an ability outside of the human potential to save us. And that I don't agree with. Now, I love the movies, but I don't agree with that narrative. We just simply need to look within, not without. And when is the last time you, if ever, have truly looked within? For instance, here's a question that you can answer. What is the most painful moment in your life? The most painful. What did it feel like? What happened in it? What did the person do to you? What happened in the most painful moment of your life? That's a question. That's looking inward. Most often, when we look inward, we think, maybe what did I eat earlier today, or how much did I sleep? There are questions that they might be inward, but they're not that deep inwardly. But a deep question to ask is, what's the most painful moment of your life? Or when was the first time you stopped believing in an all-knowing being? Perhaps it was when you found out Santa was a lie, or the tooth fairy, or some other being that you were taught was true and gives you good things, and then you found out it was a lie? I don't know, but that's a good question. When did you stop believing? When did you become calloused and hard? What were the moments that caused it? These are questions that all invoke inward reflection. Now, here's the whole point of this podcast, what I'm about to talk about, is alignment. Alignment begins with vulnerability. Being vulnerable allows you to align yourself. A lack of alignment is what we are struggling with in this society, in our culture, around the world today. And what I mean by that is if you are acting one way at work and another way at home, you have one type of conversation with one group of people and you switch to have a different conversation with another group of people, you're not only living a lack of integrity, but you're also out of alignment with your core. And alignment, no longer living in polarity, being hot and cold, or happy and sad, or up and down, but living in alignment, living in balance, living in harmony with yourself and the world that you reside in. This all starts with vulnerability. And as I've been doing research on masculinity and femininity, and for my brothers out there, my tough brothers, the heroes, okay? My brothers out there, we all have a little femininity inside of us. It's okay, as feminine women can have masculinity inside them. Here's the fascinating thing about science, though. A mother always passes down just the X chromosome. This is, when I found this out, this blew my mind. All mammals, the mother passes down the X chromosome. And the father either gives an X chromosome to make a female or a Y chromosome to overrule the X chromosome, which creates a male. And this is what I truly, deeply believe to the very core of who I am and what I want to see in this world, and what I believe every person in this world is craving even without knowing it. Femininity receives. Masculinity gives. It protects. It goes forth. We were all made to receive. With the X chromosome, we were all made to receive. Think about this for a second. You and I were made to receive. That's the feminine side. That's the X chromosome. Now stay with me. The Y chromosome gets added. So what are males responsible for? What is masculinity truly? Masculinity truly is protecting the reception. Protecting our ability to receive, male and female. Men's jobs are to, the male's job is, in my perspective, to protect humankind's ability to receive. And if a woman wants to step into the masculinity, then it would be her role as well, the female. Regardless, masculinity is the protection of the reception. And the femininity is the receiving. Now, why does this matter? Why does this matter? It matters because all of humankind, every single person on planet Earth, is striving to fill a void inside them. It's a deep, gnawing hole, a gaping void that says something in me is not enough. Something in me is wrong or off, or I'm just not satisfied. I believe that is a byproduct of living out of alignment. And alignment is bringing both sides together in harmony, the femininity and the masculinity. And when we are vulnerable, this is why vulnerability is so powerful, because when you are vulnerable, you have actually dropped the walls, taken off the mask, stood there as you are and faced everything, the most painful moments, the shame, the guilt, the fear, the confusion, the judgments, the accusations, whatever may be hurled your way, and you finally stop, you drop your arms, and you say, whatever may be, I am ready to be free. And this is the most magical moment that will ever happen in your life, because at that moment, when you no longer are afraid of judgment, you're no longer trying to protect and defend and hedge your bets and live in these dualities, you can just stand there and integrate with yourself and then talk about what is within your heart. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, and you can bring forth everything and speak it out into existence. You become free. And in freeing yourself, you integrate yourself and you become whole. And in becoming whole, you can then see the fracturing of what made you prior to becoming whole and what is happening in this world. However, if we don't become vulnerable, and we don't get to that place of vulnerability and dropping the arms and facing it head on and looking at it right in the eye and saying, whatever may be, let it be, because I crave freedom and I want to be free. I want to be loved. I want to be known. I want to be cherished. I want to be held. I want to be taken care of. I want these intrinsic desires that I crave from the depths of my soul. Until we get there, we are out of alignment. So a lot of women have had to amp up the masculinity to protect themselves because men have not done a good job of protecting them. And men have always had the masculinity up and have not done a good job of accessing the femininity side of them, to the receiving side, the soft side, the vulnerable side. And then a lot of men try to solve the void of the lack of vulnerability, the lack of receiving, with sexual addiction, pornography, affairs, all these things. They're trying to solve it on the masculine side, and they cannot satiate the deep, deep desire to heal from being without vulnerability in their lives. Now hear me, track with me, process with me. If we are not in alignment, we are either one or the other, or we swing back and forth between the two. We're not living in harmony. So, if you are a female, for instance, and you are high femininity, but you don't have the masculine side within yourself to protect yourself, or you don't have a male in your life that's doing the job they're supposed to do, which is to keep you safe, you are constantly going to receive hurt and pain. And what's not good is to counterbalance that and swing all the way to no one's going to touch me and layer all these layers of protection over you, because then you're not being vulnerable anymore. And men, your lack of vulnerability, by just buffeting up the masculine side and thinking I have to be tougher, I have to grind it out, I have to get after it. And I understand it. But not being vulnerable, but trying to solve that void, you're only causing more pain in your life. It's like trying to run a race with one leg. It's impossible. So then, we were actually made to receive. We were made to receive. And what then? Here's here's the cliff note, or here's the cliffhanger, or here's the big punchline. What are we made to receive? What are you made to receive? It's the one thing that you crave more than anything. Deep down, if you're struggling with addiction, you're not really struggling with the addiction of the substance or the pornography or the whatever it is. Yes, those are the fruits, but it's not the root. The root, what every human being craves, desires, and was made to receive, is love. Love. You crave to be fully loved. Fully loved. Without judgment. Without condition. Doing anything, the worst possible. Isn't that what kids want to know? If I do the worst possible, will you still love me? And most parents come at them, hit them, beat them with belts, scare them, intimidate them. That's not showing love. And so we perpetuate the generational curses of destroying our desire and view of what pure love is. And guess what? There is pure love. There is real love. God, who created all things, for all things that are, God is outside of that which is. All that is, the Creator is outside of all that is. And don't get triggered on me talking about God right now. Let me process with you what I mean. God is love. He created a system of love. The universe works actually in a system of love. None of us worry if the sun is going to rise tomorrow or set tonight. None of us worry if the blades of grass are going to grow or the cycles of nature are not going to happen. We know they'll happen. They're in perfect balance with itself. Nature is in perfect balance with itself. Winter, spring, summer, fall. That is the order, the nature, the beauty of love in practice. God created all things in love. And He loves us. And all we need to do, I'm not talking about you have to believe in God or else you'll never know love. I want you just to know your lack of vulnerability is keeping you from understanding the fullness of love, for love simply is. Love simply is. And your opinion of what I'm saying, without actually experiencing it for yourself, keeps you and keeps all of us, when we have opinions without experience, in the perpetual cycle of throwing stones at others while we ourselves are still struggling with holding the stone in our own hand. This is the whole point of our existence. Being a vulnerable hero is courageous. It takes a lot of courage. Courage sometimes to face yourself, to face the stories that are in your head, the narrative of every person. Maybe it's the narrative of your parents that has, maybe you're an adult with your own children and you have your parents' narrative running through your head, their stories of your life, as opposed to you being in control of your life. Whatever it is, and whoever it is. For the first time, getting vulnerable, dropping the wall, standing there, receiving love because you are loved. And then being in balance with masculinity and the femininity. And that when the Y chromosome got added, it was added to protect our reception of love. Being in alignment starts with being vulnerable. And whatever triggers take place within you, it's a great road sign to ask within yourself, where does that come from? Scoffing, judgment, whatever it is, where does it come from? And does it benefit you? Are you more free or less free? This is one of the litmus tests that I had to finally realize for myself. Am I more free or less free? Do I experience more love or less love? More joy or less joy? More goodness or less goodness? More faith, less faith? Gentleness or less gentleness? Meekness, more meekness or less meekness? I mean, you get to have a litmus test. Do things that you experience, say, and do increase that which is good, or does it decrease? Does it keep you locked down in shackles of shame and bondage and guilt and judgment? Or are you free to go whenever, wherever, in the face of whatever, and still love people unconditionally? This is heroic. And this is what we get to show people right now, not only in our society, but around the world, in every country, in Japan and Spain and all the countries that are listening to this podcast, Luxembourg, Mexico, Canada. It's mind-blowing where people are listening. I just want you to know you get to be the hero wherever you are in your own country. For all of us, impact all of us. The butterfly effect is real. And every ripple makes another ripple. So this is the message today for you, specifically for you, wherever you are listening. Whatever state, city, town, home, your car, your house. This message is for you. Your alignment, where you'll finally be at peace with yourself, where you don't have to have multiple personality disorder per se, that you're one way at work, another way at home, another way at church, another way in synagogue, another way, wherever you go, whatever you do, that you bifurcate yourself. You can live in alignment, and alignment starts with vulnerability. Whew. I love it. And I'm fired up. And I want you to know truly, you don't have to agree with everything I say. You don't have to agree with anything I say. But I am glad you listen. And I'm honored to journey with you. And I'm honored that we are walking this path together towards freedom, because we are heading towards freedom. I deeply desire your freedom for yourself, for you to experience love in its purest form, for you to heal the generational curses that have been placed upon family to family to family, generation after generation. You get to break the cycle, and it's beautiful. So thank you for listening. I do ask that you like this podcast. If you're listening on iTunes, that you not only subscribe, but you rate it, you give a recommendation, you share this message for our freedom around the world, for your freedom right now. My name is Lucas Mack. This is the Vulnerable Hero Podcast. I am honored to have you join me, and I look forward to talking with you on the next episode.